LEGO Marvel is about to drop a huge wave of products kindly sent to me by LEGO for this video review. And while most of it's playset material and age marked appropriately, there's an 18 plus in the mix and a 12 plus Milano that puts some adult UCS Star Wars ships to shame, so let's start there. The LEGO Marvel Avengers Helicarrier took some notes from what Star Wars is doing with their midi-scale range of ships and made one of their own, an iconic vessel of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and probably one of the very few large-scale vehicles that could ever undergo this treatment. The all-black base is a must, though a slightly different approach when compared to the ones from Star Wars, but still featuring a printed 4x4 piece, this time around a tile instead of those modified plates with studs on the bottom showcasing the IP and ship's name. You can choose not to display the helicarrier on the stand, but it does look nice on top of it. And as for the ship itself, it actually looks kinda great, and in some ways feels like the best out of every midi-scale ship LEGO has ever made so far. The micro-scale details such as the Quinjet representation or some fire jets with those corner tiles are actually believable and match the size of it all. The control tower is fairly detailed as well, but the bridge, which is located down here, isn't represented at all, either with a build, sticker or print. You would think it would be possible to spin the propellers, but that's actually not the case, as they're fixed in position with friction pins. You could switch them around with frictionless pins instead, but you need to wiggle things around to find a spot where the propellers don't hit the inner walls of the thing reliably, so maybe that's the reason LEGO did it this way. There's no shortage of detail in the back of the ship with the propulsors, under it with the bay area, and a few stickers with the number 64. When it comes to stickers though, this particular set isn't for the faint of heart in that regard, and I can't really not talk about them, especially on the runways where there's a ton of them. They do provide much needed detail, but it will not be an easy task placing down all 22 of them perfectly that need to align with the ones placed next to one another so that you don't get crooked lines and misaligned details. If you're up for the challenge though, you'll end up with a neat display model that doesn't take too much space on the shelf, which is something I really appreciate these days in a world of oversized LEGO products. When looking at the price of this one, I had to do a double take though, as I couldn't believe a 500-piece LEGO model would cost $80. I would be able to understand if all of those runway pieces were prints and the price was like $60 to $70, but as it stands, this one feels overpriced to say the least, which will be a common trend in this video except for the most impressive of all the products of the wave, in my eyes of course, that with little over 2,000 pieces will retail for $180. Considering the Marvel theme and the price trend of these products, this is actually a really good deal, and with that out of the way, the LEGO Milano spaceship is a seriously impressive LEGO model. The source material is one of my all-time favorite spacecraft designs, and replicating it in LEGO form would never be an easy task, yet this thing in front of me is borderline perfect. But before looking closer to the thing, I'll just go over the minifigures, the Guardians of the Galaxy crew, after the events of the first movie, as Groot is still in his pot. Rocket Raccoon is a cool minifigure, but Drax is kind of insane with all of the prints for the torso and head, front and back, as well as the arm prints. Gamora is a far less detailed minifigure as far as prints go, but does feature a double head print, which Star-Lord, the last minifigure of the lot, also does. All minifigures aside from Groot carry their signature weapons, but now it's time for the ship itself. And OMG, this thing looks hot. Like seriously! You can see that a lot of care was taken into designing this thing, especially when checking out all of the subtle angles of the front-facing side of the ship. It was a joy to put together, and given the complexity of the building techniques used to get all of these angles going on, if the box was all black and the age marking was 18+, I would totally believe it. The bottom isn't as clean, there's a bunch of gaps going on, and it needs to be sturdy to handle the weight of a 2000-piece LEGO spaceship held in balance from just this stand here, so I can totally let it slide. And granted, the backside isn't that amazing either, but still is packing a lot of detail and play. These thrusters here are fixed on ball joints so you can adjust them as you see fit, and there's this canopy element in the middle of it all that lets you take a peek at Quill's bedroom, because of course, due to the playset that this is, the ship does have an interior, but more on that later on. Those side thrusters, however, aren't the only thing that moves in here, because if you remember the ship from the movies, all of these flaps can also move, open and be adjusted however you see fit, allowing you to display the Milano in a couple of different ways. And yes, this is a Milano sticker, same with this round one by the cockpit, which in turn is a printed element that opens up like so, revealing the seats for 3 of the heroes included in the set. Now, to access the rest of it, you'll actually need to pull this up, which doesn't reveal a whole lot of space. Most of the ship build is used for structural integrity, but just enough for Groot's spot over there, and clips and studs spread all around to store all of the weaponry from the minifigures. Cool nod to Yondu calling Quill with a sticker here, and further back that bedroom I mentioned before with a cool awesome mixtape printed tile in the wall there. I may be a bit biased here, but I really love this one. Putting it together was a joy with all of the angled sections clipped into place for a seamless hull on the front there. Even the interior cover and the way it has different sections to it that fall into place perfectly was great. Character selection for Guardians of the Galaxy fans couldn't be any better, and is just really missing Mantis that joined the party at a later point in the timeline, so it can be excused. And the ship, while on its stand, it's wide but not that deep, making it great to have on display on most bookshelves. But it is a playset, and even though there is relatively small play to be had with this one, the build is sturdy enough to be picked up and swooshed around with minimal care. It is to me one of the best spaceships LEGO has ever done, and I've built a few over the years, so trust me. But on a completely different note, the LEGO Dancing Groot literally brings to life one of the cutest Marvel Cinematic Universe after credit scenes where the character is just vibing to the Jackson 5. And what I mean by that is that the seemingly weird looking build of the character has a reason, because at the turn of a crank in the back, the character will actually dance, making use of clever LEGO Technic linkage elements, making it not only dance side to side, but also twist a little at the base, which I found really clever. The pot build is nothing out of the ordinary, nor is Groot himself, but I was happy that the technical aspect of the build didn't take away from its looks, in my eyes. The whip elements wrapped around the arms make it even more believable, arms that you can adjust to the pose you like best. A few stickers can be seen in the body for a bit more texture, but the eye slope is actually printed. The tile at the front is a sticker unfortunately, but there's 2 extras for customization opportunities, with one reading I am Groot and the other reading Guardians of the Galaxy if you're fluent in Celestial. You keep these in a secret compartment down here with a few extra pieces for us to add a bit more flora to Groot, the headphones, or even sunglasses if you're feeling up to it. At 450 pieces it feels fairly priced considering the IP license with Marvel. The display value is really strong, as you could totally have these on your desk, no questions asked, and the fun factor of turning the crank and having him dance is through the roof. It feels a lot more justified as a product than the LEGO Harry Potter Mandrake set, if I'm being honest. Sure, there's a cool gimmick to it as well, but regardless of the source material, it is a weird looking object to have of something that plays a very small role in that universe. Not our boy Groot though, cause I am Groot, right? Now, speaking of things that play a big role in a universe depending on how you look at it, the LEGO Thor vs Surtur construction figure set sure feels like a niche thing to be doing as a product, even though the villain Surtur kinda destroyed Asgard, so there's that. As far as construction figures go, aka LEGO mechs, Surtur is fine I think. No knee joints, but every other part of the body moves as you'd expect it to, and there's even waist and neck turning capabilities, which is actually cool. There's flame elements coming out of the character and some stickers for the Fury appearance, but the chest slopes are actually printed, which is great, as is the face piece I had never seen before. On top of it, the crown of black fire as a sticker for decoration and can actually be detached from the body, aligning with the lore and events that happened in Thor Ragnarok. The Twilight Sword uses a massive translucent element and the whole thing can be detached from its hand. The back isn't that impressive, but I found Surtur's 4-pack to be a cool building detail. As for characters, the set includes 3 minifigures, 2 of them being fire demons, which are basically black Lego skeletons with an all-new face print, I think. And last but not least, Thor himself, fairly simple minifigure with dual expression face and a cool rubbery cape element on his back. Mjolnir is a must and there's a few extras to have it flying, sparking, lightning and more. From a kid's perspective, I think this is a great playset. You have the superhero and then lots of enemies to fight off, so lots of play to be had, and in that regard, it fulfills its role quite well. I personally am not a big fan of it, but that's my adult fan of LEGO eyes perspective speaking. Not that many interesting parts or characters, and the price of $30 for a 245-piece LEGO product isn't that amazing either. Not as outrageous as the Helicarrier, but that shouldn't even be a competition. The next in the list isn't a great deal either, priced at $50 for just 350 pieces, but it does feature 5 minifigures, so let's see what it's all about. The LEGO Avengers vs. the Leviathan is a bit of an odd product because if you remember, there's that LEGO Avengers Tower set that also includes a Leviathan model, and if you place them next to another, it's really hard to tell them apart. It's cool to have a cheaper model for you to get extra Leviathans for your Battle of New York displays, but in the process, you would end up with repeat characters, as the 5 included in this set can also be found in the tower. Big Hulk Fig being the first, being an exact copy if it weren't for the angry face. The Chitauri, Black Widow and Captain America are all the same from that set, and don't get me wrong, they're great minifigures, especially Captain and Romanoff with a sweet arm printing, but yeah. And then Loki, again the exact same figure as the one included in the tower set, but with a minor difference that instead of the cloth cape it has the rubbery version, which is actually really great. All figures have weapons and accessories, including Loki with the Tesseract. And then there's the Leviathan, great build all things considered, and it represents the movie creature quite well. Lots of golden accents on top of the mainly dark tan color scheme, and all of the wings or fins, depending on how you look at them, are sitting on ball joints, allowing them to be posed in many different positions. Every section of the body is also hinged, making it possible to bend it at will on an horizontal plane, whereas the Leviathan included in the tower was a bit more loose in that regard and could also be posed up and down. Given how this is age-marked 7+, the limitations of movement are understandable and much needed for the toy to last longer in the hands of kids. Head is a bit more loose and can move in a lot more directions, and to finish it off, the creature has 2 stud shooters for some extra play, that with all of the characters included makes it a cool playset with lots of conflict play opportunities. But I don't know, I always feel weird about sets that feature stuff that has been done in other sets, just slightly different. Feels low effort, to be brutally honest. And when I think of the Avengers vs. the Leviathans in the Battle of New York, Hulk does come to mind, but also Iron Man and Thor, war scene fighting the creatures, not Captain America and Black Widow if memory serves me right, so I think the LEGO group thinking on this one must have been something along the lines of understanding that the Leviathan by itself isn't a strong enough thing to sell the product, so let's throw in a few desirable minifigures to hopefully drive some sales, right? Do let me know what you all think. If you're looking for the cheapest way to get your hands on an Iron Man minifigure, the LEGO Iron Man and Iron Legion vs. Hydra Soldier set is the one to go for at the moment. But this 130-piece LEGO product, despite being the cheapest way to get the character, with a retail price of $20 is by no means cheap, quite the contrary, so bear that in mind. Iron Man is of course the highlight here, and always a great character to find in LEGO sets, being my favorite superhero and all, but I'm also actually excited for the fact that it also includes 2 Iron Legionnaires, a character last seen in 2015 if I'm not mistaken, so it is somewhat great for army building potential. No opening helmets like Iron Man, and under them plain dark blue minifigure heads. Also it's have a ton of extra pieces for the thrusters, and the last of the 4 minifigures included is a Hydra Trooper. Fairly simple design, but I do like the Hydra logo on the back print. He has a stud shooter weapon and is supposed to fight off his enemies with this bunker mini build, inspired in the opening scenes of Age of Ultron. There's 2 turrets at the top that can spin due to turntables, and in the middle another turret of sorts, this time around equipped with a few more of those stud shooter weapons, mounted on yet another turntable and hinged for lots of shooting angles. It's as simple as it gets, and a cool playset with cool minifigures that kids will have a lot of fun with. But I can't really look past pricing in this one, as it totally does not feel like you get $20 worth of LEGO from it. But it gets worse. Here's a 600-piece LEGO model that will retail for $100. What? I really love this one for reasons I'll explain in a bit, but that price is outrageous. I guess it's easier to dilute piece value over a big model such as the Milano, and that's why it was priced surprisingly reasonably, but even with my knowledge of how things work with LEGO, I sometimes still am baffled by things like these. But with that out of the way, the LEGO Avengers Assemble Age of Ultron replicates one of my favorite moments of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where the Avengers are finally a well-established team that completely destroys Strucker's Hydra base in the opening scene of Age of Ultron. Not only that, there's transparent bar elements to display all characters in the exact same way as that superhero snapshot of the movie, which is really awesome to see. So speaking of characters, here's the full Avengers team at that point in time, all included in a single product. Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow and Hawkeye. The last 2 with some impressive prints all around, including fit printing, Thor featuring that cool rubber cape element, and Hulk also featuring new prints on the legs. On top of the heroes, there's 3 Hydra agents included, the same as the bunker set, with one having a jetpack on his back. As for the main model itself, it's a fairly simple base on a snowy setting, featuring interesting techniques for the trees. When we take the Jeep out of the way, we can better see the 3 tank traps and 2 other structures that can actually be detached from the main base. A super clever tower build making use of roller coaster straight tracks topped off by sandbags representation, and a small bunker of sorts with stud shooters on top to fight off against the Avengers, that Hulk has no trouble busting through, as there's a play feature in the floor where he can just stomp it out of the way. But my favorite detail has to be this all-black Jeep, so good that could be its own separate set that people would probably buy multiples of. Sits 2 minifigures as basic tools on the hood, a roll cage with some backpacks on the sides, and 2 super clever 3-piece jerrycans in the back. It's a bit of a weird product, as I can't really tell if it's a display thing or a playset, but truth be told, it works both ways, and for me it is clearly a display piece that, as I mentioned before, captures one of my favorite scenes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the added benefit of pairing well with that bunker set. I just can't look past the pricing on this way, I really can't, so if you find it with a discount at a much later point in time, that would be the way to do it. Depending on where you are in the world, you might be able to pre-order some of these sets already, or wait a few more days for the global launch on August. Links for everything in the description, with my top picks being the Dancing Groot, Helicarrier if you find it with a discount, and the Milano, hands down. You will not be disappointed with this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.